Yes, he did. He said that he has always been attracted to Hispanic-looking people, dark eyes, dark hair, dark skin, and that he was particularly enchanted with young women, and I think Josie was the one who primarily caught his eye, and he indicated to us that that was his primary target.
Now, what we have up on the PowerPoint is an actual quote of Rader. Is that correct?
Yes.
And he said he liked a Hispanic-type girl. And then during this interview, when you're discussing how he murdered 4 individuals, including a 9-year-old boy and an 11-year-old girl, he said, "I guess Hispanic people just turn me on."
Yes.
And did he tell you, was he the main intention, his main intention of what he was going to do to the Hispanic-type girl that turned him on?
He had intents to, or his intention was, he was targeting her for sex.
And did he give you any indication at all about Joey or anybody else that he was interested in the family?
Really wasn't aware that there would be, according to with our interviews with him, he wasn't sure at the time. He didn't believe that the males would be home at the time.
And there's an actual quote up on the screen. It says, "So my main intention was to get her, Mrs. Otero, and the girl." So he indicated to you he was after Mrs. Otero and the little girl.
Yes.
So it wasn't that the little girl was actually a targeted person to him.
Yes, she was.
And then just he refers to, well, he didn't know about the boy, right?
That's correct.
This interview that took place, it occurred on the day of the arrest, is that right?
That's correct.
And that would have been February 25th?
Yes.
And it took place, it was videotaped, is that right?
Yes, it was.
And there was the initial part of that was Mr. Rader was read his Miranda rights.
Yes.
And Lieutenant Landwehr and an FBI agent spoke with him. Agent Morton spoke with him first.
That's correct.
And then during the course of that time, there was some discussion before he actually admitted he was the murderer.
Yes.
And at that time, Lieutenant Landwehr, after discussing matters with Rader, he told him that you were going to come in individually. The detectives assigned to the cases were going to come in individually and speak with him about each and every case.
Yes, he did.
And that's what was done.
Yes, it was.
Now, what we've put up here is a photograph of Mr. Otero and Joey. Is that right?
Yes.
And Mr. Otero, at the time he was murdered, was 38 years old.
Yes, he was.
And little Joey, he was only 9 years old. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And these photographs, that's how Mr. Otero and Joey would have looked back in January of 1974.
I believe so, yes.
Okay? But these are 2 individuals that Rader wasn't particularly interested in. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. They just happened to be there.
Yes.
Now, again, did he tell you, we talked a little bit about it, that he liked Hispanic types and the Hispanic type girl, and he was turned on, and his main intent was to get her, the mom, and the girl.
Yes, it was.
Did he expound on that? Did he go further on that about who his primary target was?
Yes.
Okay. And what did he tell you?
Josephine would really be his primary target because he was attracted to younger women, I think is what he called it. I don't know how you call an 11-year-old a woman, but he said younger women.
Yeah, and Josie would actually be a child.
Yes.
I mean, everybody here would consider Josie a child.
Yes.
Correct? And he was actually saying Josie was what he called his primary target. What we have up here, primary target, an original target.
That's correct.
Now, this is a photograph of Josie when she was that would be appropriate to what she would have looked like in 1974.
I believe so.
Okay. And little Josie, because she's just a little girl, she's only 11 years old, right?
Yes.
There's no mistaking Josie for a woman.
No.
There's no mistaking her even for a teenage girl.
No.
Now, during the course of this interview and in looking through what Mr. Rader had and what he referred to as his mother lode or his stash, right? You found various writings that Rader had about the Otero family. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And what did he refer to this family that he murdered? How did he refer to them?
That was his P.J. Little Mex, or Project Little Mex.
And these projects, what did the projects mean? What did that mean to Rader?
These were his undertakings that the things that he was working on. They were people. They were, potential victims of his that he would work on. Some of them he ended up killing, and some of them he didn't.
And
but
he literally had hundreds of projects. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And he kept detailed records about his little projects, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
And these projects, again, these projects that Rader called projects were actually people, living, breathing human beings.
Yes, they were.
And he referred to the Oteros as P.J. Little Mex.
That's correct.
And the Little Mex there, when you went through his writings and discovered what he was talking about, when he's talking about Little Mex, he's talking about Josie.
Absolutely.
Because Josie was his primary target.
Yes.
Now, did he tell you that he had a premeditated plan? I mean, he had an idea when he went into that house, did he not?
Yes, he did.
He proudly told you about the idea that he had when he went into that house. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what was his original idea? What was he going to do to Mrs. Otero and Josie?
He took with him several items that day, including binding materials, tape, rope, weapons, firearms, knives. Although during the interview at times he was somewhat hesitant, saying that, I had never killed anyone before. Clearly his words were, that this wasn't a loss of control. This was something that, was planned out, he was ready for, and I believe he had every intent, even before he entered the door, of committing this act. I think his only surprise was that he encountered some difficulties that he hadn't planned on. I think he believed that Mrs. Otero and Josie would be home alone, that her husband and son would not be there.
Home alone or home with the little boy might be there, Joey might be there, but he
Right.
wouldn't be a problem. We'll get to that
Right.
later, right? And he took care of all of his problems, did he not?
Yes.
And you talked about having with him bindings, knives, firearms, cords, things of that nature. Did Rader have a name for what all that stuff was?
He referred to it as his kill kit.
And a hit kit?
A hit kit. He said later, in his criminal career, he had actually bags that he carried it in. In this episode here, he said that he carried it in the pockets of his parka, his Air Force parka that he was wearing that day.
Okay, so as he got more experienced, he picked up on maybe I should have it in a bag or in other places, but on this occasion, he had it in a parka. But he had all the stuff he needed to kill people.
Yes.
And it indicated here there